And welcome to the Belmont Stakes edition of And They're Off. We're here in the beautiful paddock at Belmont Park. Live, that is Steve Haskin over there, ladies and gentlemen.
Live and Steve Haskin don't go together.
And in between us,
barely alive.
He is the host of Satellite Radio's At the Races, the man who shows up here every year dressed like he's looking for an audition for the lead narc in 21 Jump Street. Steve Byk, welcome.
Always great. This is one of the things I look forward to most about Belmont Week.
Is that a New York Mets tie from '69?
It's not necessarily a Mets tie. I am wearing my 19th. You want to see? Can Skip zoom in?
Yeah,
Skip?
Sure, he can.
These are 1964 World's Fair, which I attended. The Unisphere, and then
I was
right?
there.
I was there. We might have been there at the same time.
I saw you at the brass rail, I think, as a matter of fact.
I think we were waiting online for 2 hours together at the Ford Pavilion.
I asked you to get me the Blood Horse back then.
All right, fellas, let's talk about the girl we've got running in Saturday's Belmont Stakes. I'm not sure if this is a gimmick or if it's real, but I'm a little suspicious when the trainer says that it was the owner's decision to enter the horse in the race. And I get even more suspicious when asked about her attributes, he keeps on saying, oh, she's big. So I'm asking you, given all of this and the fact that he admits that she doesn't have the pedigree for this race, is this horse a contender or is she a gimmick?
Well, if you're asking me, I'm going to say that she is a contender. I think one of the reasons she's in there actually is because the alternative would be to face Dreaming of Julia, going around one turn here, which is not, which is, yeah.
The Mother Goose.
Yeah. So also, if you look at the Belmont Stakes, I'm a firm believer, studying all these fillies against colts over the years. Fillies do very, very well against colts at extreme short distances and extreme long distances. That's why you see fillies beating colts all the time in Europe, and they'll win marathon races. That's why you have Regs to Riches could beat Curlin going 1.5 miles. That's why somebody like My Flag, who actually ran a huge race in the Belmont Stakes, was flying at the end. Shuvi won back-to-back runnings of the Jockey Club Gold Cup at 2 miles. Revadier ran well at 1.5 miles against fillies, against colts. So I think if at 1.8 miles, 1.25 miles, they're compromised by it. But you start stretching them out, and they start catching up to the colts.
Mr. Byk, please don't agree with him.
I don't really have a feel for her. At first, when I was handicapping early on last week, I've had a little bit of affection for her, and then I really couldn't figure out why and what there was that was so appealing. You mentioned the pedigree. Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily up her alley.
No, the bottom line is speed. Valid appeal line.
It doesn't. It just doesn't. There was nothing about her that said to me, I have to have this horse involved. And the Rosie Napravnik thing guarantees that she's going to be overbet, and so. What's so likable in a race where there's tons of interesting alternatives and might be some crazy prices to latch on to? You brought one up this morning about Will Take Charge. I mean, there's so many alternatives in this. Why are you going to take a single-digit possibility? I mean, listen, I wish her well. I just don't get it.
I think it's good for the race. I mean, it's good from a publicity standpoint. You got a female rider on a filly, what could be bad?
That's why she's going to get bet.
Yeah.
She'll be totally overbet. But she is a contender, I think.
Well, let's talk about Orb and his connections for a second. I just want to congratulate them for running in all 3 races in the Triple Crown. When they don't have, let's face it, nobody these days wants to run in all 3 legs of the Triple Crown unless they've won the first 2, and unless you're Dwayne Lucas, who will be running in these races after he dies. But other than that, let's face it, nobody does this. Shug McGahee, he said, the horse is doing good. There's people out there say, 3 races in 5 weeks, why don't they wait? The horse may not be doing well by the time the Travers comes. Who the heck knows what happens 2 months from now? I congratulate them for taking that step and running him in here.
I agree, and I thought of you, and I thought back to Street Sense, because, of course, if we get a third winner of these 3 races, this year is going to be very similar, I think, in quality and storylines to what we had, especially if the Phillies should win by chance. But I thought about you and the story you had with Carl Nafsker calling John Nehrude and saying, because there was a lot of people, really pushing for Street Sense to have a rematch with Curlin in that Belmont. And Nehrude said to him, what's your goal with this horse? Well, we want to win the Travers. He said, well, don't run. And in this particular case, given who these people are, the Jannies and the Phipps and their storied connection to this building and the association, it is incredibly game. And let's be honest, the horse looks good out there. He seems completely unfazed by what has come forward here the last 5 weeks. Why wouldn't you run?
Well, I will mildly congratulate them. I don't want to fully congratulate them for doing on what they should be doing in the first place. It's the Triple Crown, it's the Phippses, it's the Jannies, it's New York Racing, it's the Ultimate. Why wouldn't you run? I mean, the horse is in good shape, so I'm not going to give them that much credit for running. They should be here.
Yeah, but nobody does it.
Yeah.
It's just,
Tough to earn a plaudit from him.
No, usually it's too easy.
wait till the picks come.
What it wasn't running. Then where would you be?
All right, our director is leaving. That's not a good sign. Folks, we caught up with Golden Soul's trainer Dallas Stewart earlier today. Skipper, run that interview with Dallas Stewart of the great state of Louisiana. All right, we're here with trainer Dallas Stewart, who sends Golden Soul out in the Belmont Stakes. Okay, honestly, were you shocked to finish second in the Derby?
I mean, not really shocked. I mean, I thought he would run real well, and I thought he would. I thought he could run with him. So I was proud of him, and you know, it was great. So shocked, I don't know so much shocked, but I was very happy.
Post 14, horse that's going to come from out of it. Any thoughts about that?
You know, when he first came up with 14, I was like, man. And I started thinking about when he ran his first race. I mean, he was inside, outside, split horses. It really didn't matter. So I just think he handles whatever's thrown at him. You know, his last race in the Derby, you know, he got through on some horses. Then he got out around Palace Malice. He found a way to go on and finish. And I just think he's a horse that'll run hard, you know, no matter what's thrown at him.
I like your comparison with Lemons Forever. I mean,
well, that's the truth. 14, so maybe it's lucky. I don't know.
Your owner, Chuck Fipke's quite an esoteric individual. How much of what he says do you actually understand?
Well, I mean, I don't know. He's great, and he's great to train for, and he's very passionate about breeding, and he bred the horse, and he has the mama, the daddy, the sisters, so it means a lot to him, for sure.
Good man.
your old boss, Mr. Lucas. I mean, how do you feel about him winning and now going up against him? And I understand he was enjoying this back at Churchill Downs after the Preakness.
Very much so, and I was very happy for him to see him win the Preakness, and you know, it's great to have him in the race. He's great for the game, as we all know.
Tell us a good Wayne Lucas story.
You just wonder if the guy ever slept, you know. I mean, you know, he would never bet the barn late, you know. Man, one day, can he come in and just drag in? Never. He's tough that way, so, you know.
So you didn't learn that from him, though, huh?
No, but I wish he would have showed up late a few times, so I could have been a little later.
I understand he was strutting his peacock feathers after the race.
Yeah, he was. He was pretty puffed up, and I was glad to see it.
All right, Dallas Stewart, good luck with Golden Soul. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dallas.
We've just come from the post position draw, luxury we don't have in the first two legs of the Triple Crown. Steve, anything from the post positions that will affect this race?
I think it's going to be quite interesting. Everybody's looking at the fact that Freedom Child, who looks like the speed of the speed, is drove post 2. But I'm telling you, this morning, if you watched Frack Daddy had a gallop this morning that was actually clocked by the clockers, officially clocked. And Kenny McPeak said that he was going to actually blow him out tomorrow, 3 furlongs. Frack Daddy on the rail, that horse is going. I'll tell you right now, that horse is definitely going. So you're going to have speed on the inside. Now, if you add to that Oxbow and Palace Malice, we don't know what Palace Malice is going to do, but he drew post 12, so he can't afford to just take back, because if he gets hung wide on that first turn, he's in big trouble.
He'll be up in the second flight. Yeah.
So I think the pace definitely will be contentious. So that's why you look at horses like Golden Soul on the far outside and even Unlimited Budget. It won't hurt them as much because they can afford to take back a little and then find a way to tuck in.
Yeah. Interesting. Steve, anything from the draw?
Well, the interesting element that Steve folds in with Frack Daddy and the potential now for him to break sharp and go, and Freedom Child certainly, the horse that has got natural gate speed, and who was a horse that if you look at his prior races before Derby, Giant Finish is a horse that falls into the first flight just naturally. I make about 5 horses, at least a third of this field, that is going to want to be part of the early pace, and they're spread out throughout this field. So you're going to get that forward motion. Then you're going to get the horses that are, let's say, from Midnight Taboo out. they're going to at least want to gain some inside position. I just think you're going to end up with some early prompting. I went back, and when we thought we were going to have a 15-horse field, I went to the BelmontStakes.com Naira mini website. And you can watch all the Belmonts there over the last, 40 years or so, or more. And you watch that 83 Caveat win, and watch what happens. Those horses are hustling out of the gate. Nobody wants to be 5 or 6 wide. You can say, all this nonsense about, it's not going to matter that much. It's a big racetrack. Yeah, right. It's a big racetrack. You want to lose 5 lanes of ground into the first turn? You're already going
can't.
a mile and a half. You want to go another 75, 80 yards over and above that?
If you're wide going into that first turn, you're cooked.
You might as well go right back.
Just keep going.
Take the bridge.
Take
back
the
to
highway.
turn. I mean, you're done.
All right. Speaking of done, it's time for our picks. Who wants to go first here?
I'm just getting.
Yeah, I know. We got an hour show. You got 3 hours to fill. We got 10 minutes.
I'm gonna look. I have to admit, I don't have a clue what's going to happen in this race. We don't know what the track's going to be like.
Yeah,
we don't know
weather
what the pace is going to be like. I mean, again,
give me a horse.
We mentioned before. You mentioned Will Take Charge. He's the kind of horse, big, long striding horse. He's going to come from out of it.
Yeah.
If he runs back to his Derby and he gets a clear trip, he's going to be tough. I'm looking for a price. We just mentioned the horse, and I don't know. I've been with this horse all year, and I have to give him one more shot. And I'm talking about Palace Malice, and I'm afraid that they're going to try and send this horse from the outside because of his post position, because Todd Pletcher believes that he's got natural speed, which he does. But I think he's got a good closing kick. I would just take this horse back, wait for a strong pace. And I just think this horse is a very talented horse who hasn't had a chance. I think he's going to be a big price. I'm going to take a shot with him. But, there's several other long shots in here.
Steve, give me a shorter pick.
Shorter odds,
Well,
you mean, right?
I
Of
mean-
course.
I mean, shorter
I
and
know,
light.
I know what you mean.
Well, I mean, Orb is the horse for me that I'm hard pressed not to side with. Beyond that, though, I'm going to continue to look around. I'll tell you who interests me is Incognito, who had a lot of positive buzz early in the year and may be right now.
Where did we get this guy from? Where did we get him from?
Stealing his thunder.
Oh,
All right,
Incognito,
it's
you?
enough. It's
Yeah.
enough. It's enough for you.
Don't you?
after-
Did
and you know
you
what?
look at the
I'll
horse's?
give you one
Did you
more.
look at the horse's pedigree?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, who's he by?
I forget.
Hey, you forget?
No.
right.
What I like is, how about this sidebar story?
Okay,
It's a great story. We don't have time for it. Since 2000.
let him tell the story.
Well, the Godolphin angle here, after all of the carrying on and after the Lasix controversy
Yeah.
and scandal, how an amazing of a story would it be for Incognito to win this in Godolphin Blue without Lasix?
Is that your story?
It's a
That's a
tale.
good story.
He's not on Lasix.
No.
Oh, interesting.
All right, here it comes, folks.
It's Incognito,
Make
folks.
music for me.
Look, we've had Commendable, we've had the Tara, we've had Jazzle, we've had, who the heck knows, Sarava. You don't have to have a big name coming into this race. Over the last 12 years, it's been a lot of horses with no names coming into this race and winning this race. This horse has shown he's got the heart. He hasn't shown the talent yet. He's got the pedigree. He hasn't shown the ability yet. Let's take Incognito at a
And
price.
folks, I have to point, he is by AP&D, which has absolutely nothing to do with Lenny's selection. And I hope Lenny remembers who even told him about this horse when he didn't even know he existed.
I wanted to say that I really am enjoying being in New York. That was before the previous 15 minutes. But anyway, everybody, Belmont Saturday. Have a great time. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thank you,
It's my
Steve.
pleasure. Always a highlight of my Triple Crown season.
All right, Steve, thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
All right, have a great time, everybody. Have a great Belmont.
Bye, everyone.